Franchise Sports TV, back again with another greatest playoff NBA moments. This time we will talk about the 2006-2007 Cleveland Cavaliers. See, there's a myth with this team, right? The stands of LeBron like to say that this team was pushed by LeBron because this team was full of bums. That can't be any far from the truth. Now, LeBron was the only All-Star on this team, of course. But we're not going to continue this lie and say that LeBron carried the Cleveland Cavaliers with a team full of bums. No. Granted, for any Cleveland Cavalier fan during that year, I'm pretty sure it was exciting for y'all. I know it was. You guys were probably jumping in your seats getting to the finals. But here's the thing. Let's look at the roster for the 2006-2007 Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, as we look back, I can go through the whole list, their roster right quick. We can go through the whole roster. Look at all the averages. Let's see here. So I'll pop this up right quick. See, LeBron James, right? We all know he was the superstar of the team. Averaged 27 points that year. Larry Hughes, the second leading scorer, 14.9. Drew Gooden, 11.9. Zydrunas Ilgauskas, 11.9. Andrew Varejao, 6.8. Daniel Gibson, 4.6. Daniel Melcher, 7.0. Damian Jones, 6.6 points per game. Sasha Pavlovich, 9.0 points per game. And you say those numbers are low, but you got to think about the NBA during this time. The NBA was more, balanced with offense and defense, preferably more defense, because those rule changes they got now are garbage. And they're not allowing defenders now to play defense. It's all offensive. But those were the numbers for those teams. Granted, Larry Hughes was also a great defender as well. He was put on the defensive team, I think, a couple of times. Drew Gooden was a serviceful forward. Ilgauskas at the time was probably, out of all the centers in the league, still probably top 5, top 10, anywhere from there. He was also an all-star. Eric Snow was a good defensive point guard, but he was also on his way out. Daniel Gibson was a surprising factor, especially when he got to the playoffs as well. Daniel Melcher was a very good three-point shooter as a big man. Set the record for threes with 12 in a game. So, this whole myth that LeBron led a team of bums is not quite right. It really isn't. This team won 50 games. They were projected to win 52 games. Now, if you look at their offensive stats, they were very low on offense. And what I mean by that, it was 19th in points per game, 96. Offensive rating 105.5, 18 in the league. But the defensive rating, they had one of the best defensive teams in the league that year at 101.3, fourth. And like I said, they was expected to win 52 games. They ended up winning 50. So, once again, myths about this team being trash. Mike Brown, at the time, I think this is before he came coach of the year, he was a decent coach. Now, the run, you could say was, I'm not going to say it was an overrated run, but you got to look at the team they played in the first round. They played a Washington Wizards team who was depleted in players. Gilbert Arenas, before the playoffs even started, he was injured. I think he did something to his knee. Caron Butler was also injured. And I think for most of the game, Antoine Jameson led in that series in points. I think Gilbert Arenas only averaged like 8.6 points per game during that playoff run for them. Okay, they beat the Washington Wizards, swept. Now they get a little bit more resistance with the New Jersey Nets, now Brooklyn Nets. That team still had Jason Kidd, Vince Carter, Richard Jefferson. But the Nets that season, let me see where they were. The Nets that season, they weren't good as the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Nets that season had an offensive rating of 105.7. Not that far away from, the Cavs. Defensive rating, 15th in the league at 106.6. Points per game, 97.6, 15th in the league. So they weren't really that good. The opposing team had averaged more points than they did. And they was only projected to be 39-43, but they finished the season 41-41. And keep in mind also, if you ever look at the playoff brackets for the 2007 playoffs, there was a lot of teams who actually should have been high seeds, but they won their division. So they got a higher seed, even though their record was worse than the team they played. That's why there's a lot of lopsidedness when it comes to that. But the Nets went 6 games with the Cavs. Next series, the Detroit Pistons. Now, this went the same Detroit Pistons of the 2004 finals. Ben Wallace already decided he was out the year before and went to the Chicago Bulls. But this Detroit team was still formidable. They won the first 2 games. And then LeBron decided he was going to go off. And game 5, he scored that 48-point game in overtime. A low score in the game that was in overtime. I think it was like 109 to 107 was the final score. And the Cleveland Cavaliers basically reverse sweep the old-ass Detroit Pistons as well. We got to keep in mind, the Pistons were also older at this time. I think Rasheed Wallace was 33, 34. Chauncey Billups was... I think Chauncey Billups was either 31. He was still pretty much in his prime, because I don't think Chauncey Billups retired till like 2017. Richard Hamilton was still somewhere in their prime, but their defensive anchor was gone. Ben Wallace. And also Detroit Pistons weren't known for scoring. I think that high leader in points was Richard Hamilton. Did I say Richard Jefferson? Richard Hamilton, I mean. And then probably Chauncey Billups. So there it is with them. Not the same Detroit Pistons from years before. Now, if you look at the averages right quick, as I'm going to put them up, You guys can't see them. But I'm going to say them out here. Now, when the playoffs started, before I get to the finals, please look. LeBron James still was the highest scorer on this team at 25 points. Larry Hughes, 11. Augustus stepped up his game a tad bit, averaging 12.6. Sasha Pavlovic did a little bit. Drew Gooden did as well. Daniel Gibson averaged a little bit more too, as he stepped up at 8.3. Daniel Gibson did lead in some games in these playoffs. So we're not going to sit here and say LeBron scored all the points all the time. Everybody else did step up and did their part. Now, the problem is here, as great as that run is, like I said, they did play some teams that weren't, all the way there. But they played in the finals a more hungrier Spurs team. This Spurs team, keep in mind, was the 3rd seed in the Western Conference the Western Conference. Because the 1st seed that year was the Dallas Mavericks at 67-15. As we all know about that Dallas Mavericks team, they would lose in 6 games to the Golden State Warriors, an 8th seed. San Antonio would play the Phoenix Suns. Some people might say the Phoenix Suns got cheated out, because I think that's the series where Steve Nash got railroaded by Robert Horry into the freaking scores table. And Amari Starmer went on the court and he got suspended in the crucial game. So after that, San Antonio played Utah because Utah ended up beating the Golden State Warriors, and the San Antonio handily handled the Utah Jazz in 5 games, led by, I think Carlos Boozer was on that team, and Deron Williams, not Vaughn, Deron. So the Spurs, as a 3rd seed, winning 58 games, compared to the Cleveland Cavaliers, who was 2nd seed in the East, winning 50. Most of these games in these finals, the 4 games in these finals, with the exception of probably one, I say, the first game was pretty much close. The second game was, I think it was a blowout. The third and fourth game was pretty much close. I think the first game, Daniel Gibson led the way, actually, which is not pretty good when you expect LeBron James, your best player, your franchise player, to lead, and should have led in almost every category, but it is what it is. So game 1 was 85-76 Spurs. Tony Parker led the way in that game. I think Daniel Gibson, that's the game he led in as well. Let's see right quick. Press too many buttons on this computer. It starts getting all wonky for some reason. So, you read the box score in that game. LeBron James scored 14 points. Daniel Gibson came off the bench, leading the way with 16 points. Keep in mind, these games are low-scoring games back in the day. Game 2. Let's see here. Spurs will win 103-92. I think who led the way in the game was Tony Parker once again for the Spurs. Tony Parker was just on a mission. He was completely unbelievable during the series. LeBron James did lead the way with 25 points, and I think he led the way for most of the series. Game 3, Spurs won by 3 points, 75-72. Leading the way once again. Mono did not have a good game in that game. He only had 3 points. Sheesh. But like I said, Tony Parker led the way with 17. Tim Duncan with 14. That's for the Cleveland Cavaliers. LeBron James led the way with 25 again. Game 4. And the closeout win, 83-82. Spurs, like I said, every game was close. Tony Parker had 24. Tim Duncan did not have a great game, not his usual game. He only had 12 points. Mono was the difference factor, coming off the bench for 27. There was no answer for Mono for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And LeBron James scored 24. His next leading scorer was Drew Gooden with 11. So, and another factor in this, Bruce Bowen, who is known for stopping, or not so much stopping, but creating tough times for the best scorer for the opposing team, he gave LeBron fits. LeBron didn't get past 30 not one time in this series, because Bruce Bowen at the time was also a great, decent defender. He even created problems for Kobe Bryant a lot when they faced each other. But you know what happened? Kobe Bryant dig deep, got the Mamba mentality, and found a way to win. At times. Well, he did. He did have Shaq during that time also. But later on, he found a way to win against Bruce Bowen. But then again, Bruce Bowen was getting older. But you know what the difference factor is in this, though? There was one issue with LeBron during this time, during his first stint in Cleveland. That was the reason why they couldn't win. They had a tough time winning as well. LeBron James was not good at shooting at all from outside. And most teams know this. The Spurs knew this. And they decided to force LeBron to shoot from outside. Because we all know LeBron can get to the basket around this time. But with the bigs of Tim Duncan, especially Tim Duncan down there, I don't know who the other big was during this time. Who's the other big for the San Antonio Spurs? Felicio, I hope I pronounce Alberto. I think I remember him. I think that was the other big they had. With the bigs of San Antonio Spurs, it would be hard for LeBron James to get to the basket like he did in the previous series against the Detroit Pistons. But Spurs had a game plan. Like I said, use your big man and use your perimeter stopper and Bruce Bowen and make LeBron James feel small. So, in conclusion, the Spurs were the better team. The Cleveland Cavaliers did have a good team that year. They will have a good team in the previous years. I mean, not the previous years, the following years. Even LeBron James last season, that team won over 60 games. And he probably even had a better team than this, and he still couldn't get it done. As great as that series, great as that run is, we're not going to keep sitting here and saying that LeBron played with a bunch of bums. He played with a bunch of serviceable role players, but he couldn't get it done. It is what it is. Sorry. Bye. But anyways, like, share, subscribe, and comment down below and tell me what you guys think.